See, yeah. That's actually so interesting. I actually never thought about that literally until now. That I actually could have done that by myself. I actually didn't need to like ask you. I'm not too sure. Maybe I was actually planning on taking pictures of myself.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I don't know, just having like somebody take pictures of myself. I don't know why I felt more comfortable. Or why that, because it also came out better. Like it came out and like it looked fine. I was like, okay, this is perfect. I can draw.
Like even if it's in the video as well, like you can just
Yeah.
like there's an audience.
Yeah, I don't know. That's so weird to think about because also I feel like I don't know, like you wouldn't I wouldn't like say that out loud like anywhere else.
What?
If that makes sense. Like I feel like it's weird to have to feel like I was comfortable around like, eyes that were perceiving me, I don't know, there is something like interesting about how confident I was and how I wouldn't have preferred having to like do that myself, Yeah. It was just interesting. The whole thing was like interesting.
So I think it is important because I'm sure for you as well, like you got to experience like, because now you're even realizing that maybe you have more confidence in your things and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think it is important. So you can also like discover your self-confidence, whatever. But I guess there's different ways of like understanding your own body as well.
Okay, so from the previous recordings, or from my previous sort of trying to figure out what it is I want to do with this work, and really getting into exploring some of like these questions, I started to think about like how if I have this patriarchal system erased, or like the patriarchal lens, because the system also has myself sort of conditioned to think about things in a certain way. And I think part of what I'm trying to do is to undo that, is to imagine a life or an existence of myself and my surroundings in a way that would, like, I'm trying to inherit a different way of thinking about things, or to gain and learn um a different way of seeing this, like a different gaze and a different lens. um and yeah, I think if I take that influence down, what is then like left with my body, the purpose of it, what is it, um what then becomes of it, what defines it? Because I think the patriarchal system, and I think the lens and the perspective that it wants us to look at, or it wants me to look at my body, is very specific, it wants me to disagree with how it is naturally, and it wants me to, I don't know, like I'm conditioned and I'm pushed and encouraged to aspire to a very particular type of body, and it's very limiting, and it's very, like, it hurts, like it's not nice. um but yeah, if I take that away, I'm left with the ability and the freedom for me to decide on how I like I get to decide what that is. I get to create the lines, the definition, what it means, the purpose. I get to choose that. So when I take that down, I'm just essentially left with the power and the importance of my own autonomy. I needed to really think about myself in like my purest form, or myself just as a child, or my pure sense of being when I didn't really care, and because I just didn't have to, and my lack of consciousness didn't um made me feel like I needed to care much. Um yeah, I thought about myself as a child, and how I still operated pretty much on a lot of like the same fundamentals and basis that I do now as more of a grown person. And yeah, I still internalize things, I still have the system that I described before of like, you know, the internalization or part of my being having to be about, what I internalize, like the operations of myself, like inwardly, thoughts, feelings, um, and then my body being this tool or this aspect that communicates that can communicate that expresses, the thoughts that come up in my mind, the ideas, Um, and yeah, I thought about how it's pretty much the same thing now. That hasn't been lost, and I think that forms most of the importance of why my body really exists, like now. I think it forms the main part of its purpose, even today. The thing is that I am clouded and distracted by these things that are projected onto me of what else or what other things my body's supposed to be achieving and what it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to look and the purposes, the other sort of purposes that it's supposed to like have or whatnot. And I don't think that that's necessary. It's not. But this is the core of its intentions for me, and I would rather focus on that than anything else. Nothing else really makes sense for me. And I don't think anything else should make sense. Yeah, I don't know. Just that idea seems very obvious, I think maybe to a person that might be listening. They might think that, but yeah, no, it's like that for everyone, and like that's quite obvious. There's something about it though that I feel like is incredibly powerful because I exist, like I know of myself to be a full-fledged person. I don't know if that's like the right way to go about describing myself. But yeah, I'm a whole being. I know that I exist because I'm aware of my mind and I'm aware of my feelings and I'm aware of my personhood, my personality, because of the the existence of my internal being. I'm somebody that is very aware of like my mind, thoughts, and feelings. I acknowledge that daily within like my routines and just it's a part of who I am, and it's pretty much like that for everyone, but yeah. Um but then what my body then does, I think, is cement that, My body plays this very significant role of cementing my existence amongst other existing and living things. And I'm not saying anything really groundbreaking. I don't think I am. But I think that within that simple understanding carries so much power. I don't know. I just feel like it's so powerful for me to even just come to this realization, to say that for myself in this moment, and even just to realize that my body cements all of my existence. It really it it is the physicality of who I am. And I'm gonna say it again. I'm saying this so simply, and it's supposed to be this obvious thing, like yeah, of course, like that is what it's for. I mean, anybody can think of that. Yes, I 100% agree. But I think living in a reality where I have not been made to really understand that simple fact and idea, and reality. And I've been made to think that my body carries, or is supposed to have all these other different purposes that are essentially these ideas that have been projected onto me in my mind, um, and to myself, and have confused me to actually not, acknowledge this fact that is more real and that is more essential. That is why I think I'm experiencing such a, like, I don't know, such like a, I think that's what is creating like a little bit of an epiphany for me. I don't know, like it's making that fact seem groundbreaking almost for me. And yeah, I think I love the fact of how there's like it's resonating in such a powerful sense and in a way to me. This is really just making me realize how much my body really does essentially exist for me. I've mentioned how it exists as this thing that cements my own existence. It is, you know, it seems to be something that is separate from, the things that I was talking about earlier, my thoughts, my emotions, and whatnot. But it is very much detached to that because it goes about having to express that and bringing that to life. It is very much associated with all of these things that I internalize, and it just works with it. It's a part of my existence, and it just, I don't know, in just such a powerful way. I'm gonna say it again. It just cements my existence. It just makes my existence real. Yeah, I think there's that point, but then there's also the point of like how if I take all these like distractions, they are essentially distractions, the sorts of things that the patriarchy I think has projected onto me. If I take that away, I'm left with the fact that it's up to me to really understand and reflect and define what my body is supposed to mean to me, the purpose of it, what I want to do with it essentially, and all of that. My body is here for me. Um Not only am I, alive in a sense and here physically in a sense because of my body, but it is meant for me and literally nobody else. Um and yeah, I think it brings me to life. I remember writing this down and thinking to myself that like it brings the essence of who I am, everything I know of myself. Like I said before, the things that I internalize, it brings all of that to a physical existence. It is so fascinating for me to recognize that my body essentially just carries my existence, Um, I don't know. I don't know how other people sort of visualize this, but for me, I imagine that my thoughts and my feelings are like in my body. I don't know if that is making sense or if that is like resonating with people, but I imagine that my thoughts are like somehow like in my body or like in my mind, like my feelings are like stored in it. But I think in a way it does like make sense because, when I feel certain emotions, my body gets, affected. I start to feel it physically. And I think it's quite, you know, it's quite, common that when you are feeling certain emotions of like anger, you might feel it like in your chest. I personally do. Or, feeling certain emotions like in your stomach or like your stomach hurting from like having certain emotions or yeah, like being able to feel an adrenaline boost from, being excited or being happy or feeling overjoyed and whatnot, So I think it's I would like to believe that that imagination is quite common because of, the things I just explained right now. Um, yeah, I think for me, my body really does carry a lot of what makes me me. It carries me. It carries my existence or what makes me up. And at the same time, it also is my existence. I would have not existed if it weren't for my body. Yeah, I think my body is this sort of tool in a way. And it carries out certain, practical functions that are necessary for me as just a human being. I've described them in, quite a few times already. Um, it expresses certain emotions that I carry or that I internalize, and is it is able to communicate them um like externally. So understanding that and also growing into being conscious of that, I can then, use that as an actual tool. My body is a, tool of communication. Um, but in more of I don't know, it's yeah, it's essentially a tool for existing and cementing more of myself. If I want to put myself in a space and to be seen and to be heard, my body is pretty much like that. um I'm even starting to think of like how it is basically a reflection of who I am as a person. But I don't know really how to go about explaining that, but there's something very reflective about the existence of my body. um I don't know how to really go about describing that, but I think I'm just gonna say that and leave that there. um yeah, I guess the sort of thing that I think what makes this so beautiful for me is that like my body is physical. It's this physical, tangible thing for me. Um, I can see it, I can feel it, you know. Um, it's very central. There's something very central about existing within yourself. Um, that cannot be denied at all whatsoever, I think. Um, but at the same time, to be able to, really, I don't know, explore the kinds of things that I've explored as I have been trying to, express a lot of like what I'm trying to like conceptualize in this sort of topic. Um, I don't know, it's resonated in such a very like powerful way to me. And I think if there's anything that has really resonated with me and has really just, I don't know, influenced me or just left like an impact is that as physical as my body is, I cannot deny how spiritual it is as well. There's something very spiritual about me having to, I don't know, it like what sits with me or what, I don't know, leaves such an impact with me of how like powerful or like very purposeful then like my body is, especially when I, express how I'm feeling or how I'm getting that it carries my existence, or how it forms my existence and how it can relay a lot of my intentions, whether I'm conscious of it or not. There's something very spiritual about the physical existence of my body, and there's literally no other way that I can explain that. I don't know, but that is, I think, like the final most, I don't know, powerful thing that I think just really sits with me after having had done all of this sort of thinking.